right. Hey, guys. So, thank you guys for being here. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here. And so, I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then I'm going to ask Brian to come up, and he's going to share a little bit of history about our Puerto Rico trips here. So, if you wouldn't mind, just bow your head with me. Awesome, Father, great God. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve you. We thank you that you call us to go out and to help those in need. And Lord, I pray that you would just bless this time, and that that you would just help us connect with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good evening. How's everybody? I was going to spend a little bit of time talking about the history of how we've gone to Puerto Rico for the last two times, or the last 2 years. I'm going to take this off. I can't do this and speak. That's a whole lot better. So for those that aren't familiar with Puerto Rico, just from a size and shape, Puerto Rico is 110 miles wide and 40 miles tall. And if you think about geographics, that's the distance between Knoxville and Chattanooga is about 110 miles. And from the I-40 split to Kodak, where Sevierville exit is about 40 miles wide. So that is a very small portion compared to the United States or even Tennessee, right? They have about 3.5 million people living on that island. Tennessee has 6 million people, 6 to 7 million people. So we're 8 times the size of Puerto Rico and twice the population. So it's a very densely populated area. If you want to go to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about 2019. Who was here and went on the 2019 mission trip? Let's raise your hand. There's about 6 or 8 of us that went in 2019, and that's how we got the idea to go back. Is about 6 or 8 of us said we need to go back. So let's talk about how we got involved with Iglesia Bautista de Metropolis, which is in a little municipality called Carolina. So Friday, before we were supposed to get on the plane back in 2019, Daniel got a call from Christians saying, we can't find the pastor of the church that you're supposed to be partnering with. They've gone AWOL. We don't know where you're going to be. So like good Christians, we took a leap of faith and we got on the plane anyways, right? And we ended up in Puerto Rico. And it's kind of happenstance that we got partnered up with this IB, they call it IB Metropolis, or Iglesia Bautista de Metropolis, because they weren't expecting us either, right? So we had no idea what we were going to be doing when we got there. We thought, what was our intent? It was to build roofs, right? Yes. So after the hurricanes in 2017, they were finally getting crews in to help different places put roofs on houses. And when we flew in 2019, you would see tarps on top of different buildings trying to keep the water out. So one of the great things about this church is, and I look at our storied history out in the hallway in the narthex with the 1825 church. Their church back in 2003 was in about a small little house church. It's actually where the ladies stayed this year, up on the corner. It was a small church. I never got inside that building, but it wasn't huge, right? Very small house church, basically. A small 3-bedroom house in there. And in 2003, they moved into, in the upper left corner, a tent church. And that tent church is right there where the cursor is. And that, their thought was, we're going to be here for a couple years, and then we're going to build a bigger church. Well, friends, it took them 14 years to build the bigger church, okay? 14 years of saving and praying and getting the right resources. In about 2016, they built the church that you saw on the first, and it was built to hurricane standards, all concrete structure, metal roof, very, very well made. And what happened in 2016 is their tent churches in the lower left was basically annihilated. So it was kind of providence that they had built this new church and were in this new building. But, you think about the facilities we have in Fountain City, and, I don't know how we would have survived for 14 years in a tent church, right? Think about back in the days of the 1800s when Fountain City was really a tent church place, right? As I understand it, Don. So, it's rather interesting to think that they have gone from a tent to a building, and it was perfectly timed. Now, as you go into the narthex, there is a saying on the wall. What does it say? Anybody from the mission team, what does it say? Does anybody remember? Entramos para adorar, salimos para servir, which basically means we enter the house to worship and we leave the house to serve. So this church has a very strong missions focus. And so when we went, if you want to go to the next slide, when we went, this building here is their nursery, but it's also where they house missions teams that were coming in after the hurricanes had destroyed the area. This is where they were housing mission teams. But if you look closely on the right, that's a giant puddle of water in the building. So it really wasn't livable. So 4 o'clock on a Sunday, after we'd worshiped with them in 2019, the Pastor Jesus, got us all together and said, well, here's our problem. And we went, okay, and we had several people, Chris Lemons, Alan Bible, Richard Bach, Dan, and myself, and a few others that all just started scratching our head going, okay, we can fix this. And so if you go to the next slide, we started fixing this. So we dug a trench, because when they built up that new church, they actually raised the ground, so all the water was heading into where that lower part of that building is. And we put in some irrigation, and we started talking with Christian, who is our team leader, and one of his favorite sayings was, God doesn't have a plan B. When we got there, he says, you're going to have to be flexible. And so we started talking to him, and he said, here's what we need. And we said, we need a backhoe. And we need some gravel or some river rock. And he looked at us, and he was a little dumbfounded. And we're like, yeah, we needed 6 tons of rock is what we calculated. And he's looking at us like, okay, never had a mission team ask for that. Never, ever. So we became a little bit legendary. So it took a day or two, and they found the backhoe, and we said, Dan raised his hand from his military days and said, I can operate a backhoe. So he ran the backhoe to dig the trench on the right. At some point, there was a giant mud fight in there. If you look in some Facebook pages, you'll see that. But we spent a lot of time digging that trench and work on irrigation. If you go to the next slide, those little areas on the right were showers that they'd built. So one of the things that they were trying to do was set up the infrastructure. This was in 2017 or 2019, so more mission teams could come and they can bring more people, and the more centralized showers that they could have, they could cover more teams and get more work done. So some of the things that we did, and you can kind of see, did we flip past the sidewalk, the concrete picture yet? we might have, yeah, right here. So this crew right here was actually pretty much an all female, all the high school girls mixed concrete. And Trevor. Okay, and Trevor, but we said, okay, this is how you mix concrete. And Lauren Bach was kind of the foreman, and we kind of taught them how to make a form, and they mixed concrete by hand. You know, they started asking us, how much concrete do you need? And we started going, well, we need 2 or 3 yards of concrete. And next thing I know, these dump trucks are backing up with gravel and cement and sand. And I'm like, oh, we're hand mixing this. This is not a guy in a ready mix truck coming. So we mixed concrete. Now, one of the interesting things is we didn't know we were going there. So they didn't know what supplies to give us. So we were starting to talk to Pastor Jesus. And so we said we need more wheelbarrows and we need some shovels. I mean, we're basically scroungers, right? Looking for any tools that God would provide to us. And so one day, as we were, the concrete mixer wasn't part of our original plan, okay? So Pastor Jesus said, send somebody with me up the street, and I found somebody with wheelbarrows and shovels. I said, great, I'll go. I'm not shoveling, and with my back, I don't really want to do tons of heavy lifting, so I can go up the street with Pastor Jesus. So I get in the van, and we go up maybe a half a mile up the street. We stop at a young man's house, or older gentleman's house, and Pastor Jesus is bilingual. So he's translating, and the guy says, do you need shovels? Yes, we need shovels. Do you need a wheelbarrow? Yes. Okay. And he said, do you need a cement mixer? Yes. Yes. So I went in the back of his house and set that red mixer. Just as I'm coming out of there, I'm by myself, by the way, Pastor Jesus, who has the attention span of a gnat, says, I've got to go, got to be somewhere else. See you later. And me being mostly single language, un poco Spanish, said, uh-oh. So I have a wheelbarrow, 2 shovels, and a concrete mixer. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get these a half mile down the street. Next door, there's a guy building up his front area, and there's a guy with a pickup truck, and we started looking, and somehow they all decided they knew Pastor Jesus, they knew it needed to go down to the church, so they helped me load it up, and I got into this old pickup truck with another guy, and he leans over and gets about this close to me, okay, and I'm going, uh-oh. And he screams at me. And at first, I had no clue. And what he was saying, he was so excited that he screamed at me, and I went, uh-oh, did I get in this truck with a madman? And he got louder and said, God is good. So in his excitement, he was trying to tell me that God was good. And for a half a moment, I didn't know what was going on. But it was one of those divine moments where God provided a concrete mixer that really helped move this project along. So let's go on to we've hit on that slide. So as we're getting shaped up for 2019, maybe about a year ago, Daniel and I start talking. We need to go back. Surely the pandemic will be under control, and we'll have some sort of activity for the youth to aim towards. And so as we started going, and obviously with the pandemic, we didn't know if we were going, if we would be allowed to go, who would go. And I mean, it was a pretty up and down spring for us as far as whether we're going. So when we finally went to get going, what we found out was we were going back to see Pastor Jesus in IB Metropolis, and they still had a water problem. The roof was leaking, and the water from the parking lot in the front of the church created a river, and it wasn't making it to the street, and it would wind its way all the way back to the buildings. So that was our task, to kind of set the stage. So that was 2019. From here forward, we're going to really talk about 2021. I think we have a video that we're going to have from not Pastor Hazer, Christian Rivera, who was our team leader in 2019 and 2021. And in a lot of ways, he's become a great friend of mine and of many around this church. He has a strong heart for missions and serving the people of Puerto Rico. And I think you'll find out that he believes that there's no one like Fountain City that's come to the island and worked with their team. So, go ahead.
God bless you all. My name is Christian Rivera Gonzalez. I have two last names because I have a dad anymore. Also, English is my second language, so give me a bit of a grace. I have had the pleasure of working with both of the teams this church has been able to send to the island. The one in 2019 and the one in this year, 2021. And there's no words I can use to describe the gratefulness that we feel about being able to work alongside you in the island of Puerto Rico. You may know this, but in 2017, we experienced two hurricanes Irma and Maria, which destroyed the island. What you may not know is that we have been suffering an economic crisis since 2014. And in 2020, we also experienced 11 earthquakes between January 6 and 7. That's beside the pandemic that also happened during 2021 or started in 2021. So the fact that a team has come from the States, cross all the ocean, to come help us out, it speaks volumes of your love and your faith. So, thank you. There's no real words I can use to just express the gratefulness that we as people feel towards this church. My work in PPM is to pair up teams from the States with local pastors that are doing ministry on the island to keep raising their hands when they're getting tired. This is why in 2019, when the team came, we partnered with Iglesia Bautista de Metropolis, or Metropolis Baptist Church, and we helped them with the ministry that they had. You see, they have been identifying different places in the island that might need help, and they were using it to launch teams from the States and other places that they can come. They stay at their church, at Metropolis Church, and then can go outside and work with the different communities. What we did in 2019 was help out this ministry by providing better facilities for teams that were coming to lodge. We were able to build 6 more showers for them to use them, and we were also we made a trench for the water to be moved away from the building that they were using. However, when the team came back on 2021, the church has been struggling a lot because there was a lot of water that was coming from the parking lot itself and was getting inside the building. Because of this, even though they had the trench, the building was getting so flooded inside that they were not being able to use it for the purpose that they had thought about. So they were thinking that the only reason or the only possible thing that they could do was going to be demolishing them and then make them again in the future. However, the team once again worked their magic and were able to even raise the parking lot and build a bigger trench. So now, actually, I just spoke with them last week. They told me that the water was not coming in anymore. So they were actually being able to use this building as a place to lodge teams. They had another house nearby, but they lost it. So now the fact that the team was able to salvage this building actually allows the ministry that the church was doing to continue. So, thank you. The work that this church has been doing in the island has been exponentially. It not only helps the local church of Metropolis that this church has been partnered with, but also helps every other team that has come or will come to work through them to different parts of the island. So, again, thank you. The ministry in the island is not over, of course. And we need more churches like Fountain City that they can not only preach but also go ahead and do the work. I have directed or worked alongside 50 teams in the last 2 years in Puerto Rico, and I have not seen the craziness that Fountain City has in just doing whatever is necessary for the things to work. So thank you. We really need to continue doing ministry in the island. We need more people like you all. If you would be still willing to continue the ministry, there's a lot of houses that have still not had a roof after Maria. A lot of buildings have been affected by the earthquakes, and a lot of people that have lost hope, and they need to regain it somehow by churches like Fountain City coming and tell them, God's with you. We are with you as well. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure to have worked with you all. I hope we can see each other again. God bless you all. Good morning, and God bless you all.
So Christian's a pretty great guy. I love Christian a lot, and we like to talk about. We still text and call every once in a while, and we like to talk about the Marvel series. So it's pretty good. When we decided to, when we started talking about going back, honestly, it was a couple of months into the pandemic. Like, we'd been shut down, there was nothing going on, and I was kind of talking to Brian, and I was like, we need to go back to Puerto Rico. and we just started discussing it. We're like, surely it'll be over within the year, right? And then it kept going. And I was like, with the way it's going on, I was like, I'll be happy if we take 20 people. When we went in 2019, we took 30. I was like, I'll be happy if we take 20 people. Well, we had 26 sign up and we had probably about 6 weeks before we left. And then we had a couple people have to drop out, and a couple people add, and a couple people drop out. We ended up taking 32. We took more than we took the first time, which was a big win for us, because I felt like the more people from our community that we could get back involved in doing something, the more life we could kind of inject into what we're doing here and there, right? And I'm proud that we were able to take more people. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to bring up a few of the youth, a little bit at a time. We're going to let them tell you about their experiences. So the first thing that we're going to talk about real quick is on Sunday, we had worship at the church and a prayer walk. And then on Wednesday night, we had we got to hang out with our youth group. So I've got a few folks that are going to come up and talk about the worship, the prayer walk, and the youth group. Those of you that are doing that, come on up. So this is Jake and Madeline and Max. I'm going to hand this to you first.
So, oh my gosh, that's loud. So on Sunday, which was our first full day in Puerto Rico, one of the first things we did was we got up in the morning and went to a church service, which was the church that we stayed at, their church service. One of my favorite parts of that was that during our actual like singing worship, we sang a lot of the same songs that we sing on Sunday, except it was in a different language. So a lot of us could pair along and sing the same words that we sing on Sunday mornings, and still worship the same God. And that's one of my favorite parts, because everybody comes and sings together. Another memorable part was how energetic everyone was during the service. People were jumping up and down, raising their hands up in the air. Like, you could tell, like, everybody really wanted to be there. And it was a fantastic experience for all of us to be there and worship the same God, even though we're hundreds of miles away from each other.
So like Jake said, it was definitely a different experience than what we were used to. It was the first time I've ever been to a church where the pastor started singing with the worship team, and that just made his sermon so much more powerful. And it was all in Spanish. Some of it was translated into English, and some of it wasn't. And like Jake said, one of the most cool things about it was the common songs that we sing here were sung there in Spanish. And it was just a reminder that although it was a different culture, our God is all the same.
Cool beans. We actually got to hang out with their youth group afterwards, and we did this little like water night thing where we played like water pong and had like this water slide thing. It was actually a lot of fun, and we got to really connect with their youth. Turns out a lot of them like the NBA. I've talked to a lot of them about it, and I just thought that was really cool.
Could one of you tell us something about the prayer walk? Anybody in?
So after we had the service, one of the first things we did after a service was we went on a prayer walk. If you guys don't know what that is, basically we went out in the surrounding community. It was about, 30 minutes? About an hour. We walked around and walked up to strangers' houses pretty much. And our leader of our group would come up and say, buenos, and that's like, hello, come out of your house. So they would come out of their house, and our leader would be like, can we pray for you? And one of us would volunteer in our group to pray for the person in the house. And I don't think words can describe the expression that you'd see on these people's faces, because Christian was right when he said that these people need hope. And to see a group of young people like us come out there and take the time out of our day and the time out of our mission and the time out of our lives to say a prayer for them means the world. Their expression says it all. I wish you guys could experience that. So it was a fantastic experience for all of us.
Would you mind handing the mic back down to Max over there? Got a question for Max real quick. Max, will you tell us a little bit about maybe a relationship that you've built with somebody?
So I got really close to the pastor's familia, especially his daughter, but something like that. But yeah, it's gotten to the point where I play Xbox with him. I play NBA 2K with him.
With who?
Pastor Jesus. And he really likes Atlanta. He's always loved Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks especially. And so we'll play my team together. And instead of picking like a good team, he'll pick someone like the Hawks and get beat by like 50. And then he'll start talking in Spanish, so I don't know what he's talking about. And he sounds really aggressive when he does it. So
Does he sound more aggressive when he's playing that, or when he found out that you were trying to get his daughter's number?
Oh, definitely when he's getting beat by 50.
By the way, his daughter's the one up there in the top left-hand corner. Yeah. And Pastor Jesus is down here at the bottom, on the bottom right, next to the guy. That's the worship leader. Pastor Jesus is the guy next to him. Yeah. So yeah, just thought I'd say that up. All right, guys. Thank you all very much. And then, all right. So moving along, we're now going to talk about some of the work that we did. And so basically, everybody at some point pitched in and helped at the main building site. And so would everybody just kind of, everyone that's here, we took 32 people, not everybody here, everybody just kind of stand up real quick. All right, so, okay. So at some point, pretty much everyone had worked at the main site just about. And so, but for right now, just a few people, I'm going to ask Aaron to come out and talk about what we had to do with the parking lot. And so you can see up there, and Brian showed you a picture of what was going on.
So as you heard, the parking lot was causing issues with the building they had worked on last time. Water would run across the parking lot and down and into that little building, so it was causing the flooding. So Brian, ultimate engineer mind there, thought we need to grade the parking lot, so I got to help him do a lot of that. And we started off by getting 19 cubic meters of rock dumped in a dump truck, as you can see up there. And a Bobcat was rented, and unfortunately Dan was not with us to run the Bobcat. Brian kept wishing he was, and because then we would have gotten another backhoe instead, and it would have been better. But we basically worked and raised, I don't even know how much we raised the level of the parking lot up, but we got it graded down so it actually dumped into the street instead of down at the building. We cleaned out the drainage ditch that was in the street, and we raised it up on the one end so everything would drain down to the street instead of heading down to that building. And as Christian said, it actually worked, which was nice to hear because I've been wondering about that.
Thank you. And then, all right, so we also, while we were there, we worked on a roof. So Finn, you want to come up here real quick? And anybody else that worked on the roof, come up, just stand up next with Finn here. Just give him a little moral support. Andrew's not here, so.
Hi, I'm Finn. I worked on the roof and we painted it. So when we were up there, it was about 1,000,000 degrees. So we were up there painting the roof, and we see Dan coming up, and he came and helped us paint the edges of the roof. Ultimately, we got it done, but it took a good little bit to do. We had to patch a couple holes, and I didn't know why we were painting it at first, but it's a weather coating so that it wouldn't corrode the roof. And then it worked because Christian said it did, so. And that's all.
All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it rained like right after we finished that. And like, I think me and Brian and Pastor Jesus and Christian were taking turns like running into that building just to make sure that there wasn't water coming through the roof after we patched that hole. So there was no water coming in. It was fantastic. All right. So next up, we had a couple of other projects that were going on there. We had a tire garden, and there was some painting that was done on a kind of a storage building, and then also there were some benches that were made. Would you guys come up if you worked on those things? Sure. If you worked on it a little bit, come on up. All right. So I'm going to hand this over to Grace, and back to Madeline over here.
Okay, so I worked on the tire garden mainly. So during Hurricane Maria, they all got blown into the woods, and we picked them up out of the woods, and we're like, what were these for? And they said they're for a community garden. So we were like, okay, this is perfect. Let's try and make all this back to how they wanted it. So we cleaned them off, we painted them with the paint they had in the trailer, and on the front one, we were like, we need to put something on this that everybody will know, and we put a cross, a heart, and a U, and it's Jesus loves you, and we haven't planted anything in there yet, but we'll get to that when we go back, but yeah, and it's just really special because we got to leave our mark. We got to also take tiles that were broken in the hurricane from where, I don't remember what that was back there, where the tiles were.
So they were, at one point, they were starting to try and build a garden back there, I think. And so they had started to like fill in with just random things, but at some point somebody just dumped a whole bunch of broken tile back there.
Yeah, so we took the broken pieces, and me and Emma Miller, Donna's granddaughter, we painted them and we wrote Bible verses on them and left some blank ones so that the kids and the youth could write on them, and then they could also write on the tires and just bring Jesus into that community garden.
Okay, so also this mural right here, I wish we had taken a before picture because it was really gross and it just looked really bad. So we cleaned that off. It took a little while to clean off. And then we painted over it and put this mural on it. And it has the verse that was on like the wall when you walked first into the door, the enter to worship, exit to serve, because that was like a common verse that they used there a lot. And we also built benches. And that was really cool because I got to use the skills that I learned doing the Operation Backyards that we've done. And I got to learn some more to apply at Operation Backyards in the future. So yeah.
Caleb's just up there for moral support. Thank you, ladies. All right. So, all right, next, if you worked on, this is going to be pretty much everybody at some point. If you worked on either the ditch or the bridge, come on up here. Everybody that worked on the ditch or the bridge. First, we're going to hand this to Devin to talk about the bridge that he built. Because he built a bridge to go over where his dad had dug a trench the time before.
So last time we were there with the backhoe, we dug a trench to get that water out. Well, when we got there this time, we found that they had put a playground right next to the new church building. So to get from the playground across to the children's building, they had to go around the ditch or over it. So we decided to get some wood and then build up a small bridge and set it on top of there so that it would be easier for people to cross. And yeah, that was about it. Oh, and one thing that they used the people that were working in the garden, they also used some of the other leftover wood to build some benches to go in there too.
All right. And let's see, Wilder and Roland, move down this way, would you? So, all right. So this is Wilder and Roland, and I'm going to hand this to you. So, Wilder, can you tell us a little bit about the ditch? Do you know why we dug the ditch?
Something about flooding.
Okay.
Hit it with the pickaxe.
All right. So we connected the ditch that Dan had created with what on the far end of the ditch? There was a creek. Remember? Roland, do you remember this? Yeah. Okay, hand that to Roland. All right, Roland, can you tell us a little bit about the ditch?
Yeah, so basically there was a lot of flooding from like all the rain, and we had to get it from going into like the grass and the buildings and stuff and put it into like the woods inside. It was like next to the church.
And so were we able to do it all by, was Brian able to use the Bobcat to dig the trench?
I wasn't there for that.
Well, you were there for the digging part, so was he able to do it? Yeah, okay, hand it back to this guy for a second.
There's rocks, so it was like hard to break it. What was it? We had to get like 3 feet?
Yeah, so we started out and we went it was about 72 feet that we had to connect, 72 feet. And we were like really, really wishing that Dan was there with the backhoe. And we got about 30 feet in just digging, and we hit rock. And we're like, okay, hopefully this will just be a little rock. No, it was rock the entire rest of the way. And it was hard because it's rock, right? So anyway, so we just started grabbing pickaxes, and there were just a few of us that were there at that time, and we started trading. And one of us would pickaxe for a little bit, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And I got to tell you, we felt like we were never going to make it. We felt like we were not going to be able to complete this. We started talking about, okay, we're going to have to hire somebody to come out and finish this because there's no way we're going to fix it. And then we had about 45 minutes left in the day, and we were only going to have a half day left. And we had about 45 minutes left of the day, and all the rest of the team showed up from all the other sites. And it was like this everyone was worn out. Everyone was worn out, but it was this every man on deck type thing. And everybody came down, and everybody started scooping up the rocks that were that we had already broken through, and more people started grabbing the pickaxe. And that first day when I was like, we're just going to have to hire somebody, we actually got a little bit. We managed to connect the trench all the way to where we wanted to go, even though it was narrow. But it gave us the knowledge that we were going to be able to finish it. Like, everybody just showing up and throwing in really, really helped us, kind of like rebuild our confidence that we were going to be able to do that. And the next day, we went back at it, and we had a big crew that stayed behind, and everybody took turns with a pickaxe. And I wish Andrew Kircher was here, because he was kind of like our pickaxe champ, him and Grace. And and we got it done, and it was a pretty amazing feat for us to finish that. And you can see in the middle picture at the bottom, we got a hose going to make sure that the water was going to go in the direction we wanted it to. So, and it did. So it was a pretty amazing thing. Thank you guys. Now, if you were involved with the children's church building and painting, stay up here. If you weren't, go have a seat. And Sarah Beth, you come slide this way. Yeah, the one that the building that you painted, you were part of that. Yeah. Sarah Beth, come on down here. I'm sorry? Yes, this is the original church, and it's also the church now that they use for their, well, I'm going to let Sarah Beth tell you. Sarah Beth, what do they use this building for?
They use it for the youth group and to house the mission teams that come.
And so did you stay here while we were there?
Yes, there were 2 rooms for the girls to stay in, so we got to stay in those, and then the boys stayed back at the big church, and they slept there.
Was it a nice building? Did you like it? Okay.
Yeah, it was okay. it was air conditioned, so that helped.
Yeah, the first year that we went, we didn't have air conditioning, so having buildings with air conditioning was really nice this time around. And it's really nice that they have this place that mission teams can come and stay at, right? And so Sarah Beth, can you tell us a little bit about what you did while y'all were there?
We just painted, and we had to scrape off the old paint with chisels that would actually come off of the building. Some of it wouldn't, but that's what we did.
Why'd you have to do that?
Because it had been painted that time for a long time, and if we didn't repaint it, then the building would start to deteriorate.
Yeah, because it's in such a salty area, if the buildings aren't repainted with regularity, it just kind of starts to break down. So, all right, well, thank you guys. And then if you worked at the home for the mentally disabled adults, and this is going to be Grace. And Grace is sporting the t-shirt that we got.
Okay, so we went to what was it called? Does it have a name?
I don't know that it does. It was just the home for, I was told it was the home for mentally disabled children, or for disabled children. That's what I was told.
But it was not for children, actually. It was for mentally disabled adults. And the guy who founded it, he founded it because his son was mentally disabled, and he wanted somewhere for him to stay and be taken care of. But they were shut down in 2019 because they were not up to codes, and the government came in and they found expired medicine and stuff. So when we went back, well, we didn't go back. When we went, we swept all the place and we cleaned. There was a bathroom crew. Anybody in here on the bathroom crew? Yeah. Yep. Get up here, Kathy. Yeah. But we basically swept and cleaned, and then the second day we went outside and we weeded some plants. Is that all we did? I don't. Oh yes, we did rake for hours. It was. Did we do anything else?
Didn't they say something like what y'all did there saved them?
Oh.
So she was saying that what we did helped them save months worth of work. So can you tell me why it was important for them to get that place open as fast as possible? Do you remember?
It was important for them to get it open because they had sent all their their children, I guess, and they had sent them out to homes within communities, and some of the people, they screamed at night, and their neighboring houses were not a fan of that, and so they kind of just wanted them to be sent back to this one place where they felt safe and okay, and they didn't disturb anybody.
So they were going to terminate the rent contracts, and they didn't have anywhere for these people to go. And so they had to get this place reopened before all the rental agreements ended, or these people would have had no place to go. And the reason that she said children a second ago is because they, we would say mentally disabled adults, they call them children because mentally that's where they see them as being. And so they're like, we have to have a place to put these children. And so it was a very important thing for them to get that place open because there's not a lot of facilities in the area that will actually house the mentally disabled. And so it was a great thing that these guys were able to help and be part of getting that reopened. So thank you guys. All right, and if you were part of the food pantry and clothes sorting, yeah, some of you just turn right around. And then...
Okay, so first of all, this food pantry was at a church with a small congregation, and they would basically help these kids that were at a college, where was it? Across the street. Like if they needed food or groceries just to get by. And what we were doing there was we were sorting clothes, toys, like stuffed animals, and even shoes, and we were... because all that stuff was going to the Dominican Republic, we were just trying to sort it all out and see if the stuff was good to actually go there.
Yeah, so if you think about it, we take our stuff and, take it to Goodwill, and honestly, a lot of the stuff there is stuff that you'd find at our Goodwill, but then they take the stuff that they don't need anymore and they send it to the DR. So there's just this cycle that goes on, and the church that we're staying with, that we helped with, they actually have a sister church in the Dominican, and they help that church regularly. So it's kind of neat to see, we were helping this church, and then that church was going and helping another church in another area. So thank you guys for what you do. Thank you. All right, and if you helped at the flower farm, that's right, turn right back around and get back up here. All right. This.
Okay, so we went out to this farm, this flower farm, and in Costa Rica, this is Puerto Rico, my bad. In Puerto Rico, there's not a stuff, most of their goods are imported and exported, so they don't have a lot of farms there, and it was really important that we went out and help, the farms are very valued there, and so we went out, and the guy who owned the place, I think his name was Eric, he was coordinating most of our meals for the trip, so it took a lot of time to do that, and so we thought we could go, help him out however we could, and he had this big old pile of gravel in this chicken coop, and so we went and spread it. We spread the gravel all over the ground. It was evened out because I think the ground was pretty uneven and it was getting all dirty. And so he wanted that cleaned up, and so we shoveled all this gravel for the day.
Thank you, sir. And then we didn't just work; we did have some fun too. And so I'm going to ask Jake and Max and Braden and Grace to come up here and tell us a little bit about some of the activities that we did. So if y'all slide back up here. So I'm going to have Max and Jake tell you a little bit about, the swimming and then the ocean and then the bay.
I'll talk about the bay if you want to talk about the ocean. So let me tell you about an adventure, right? So one of our last days in Puerto Rico, we went on this adventure, and it was in a bioluminescent bay. And cool story about those, there's only a handful in the entire world, and Puerto Rico has three of them.
3 of the 5.
So we went to the second brightest one in the entire world. And we started out near the coast of Puerto Rico and then went further inland. And we traveled down this like mangrove river kind of thing. And it started out, we were in the daylight, right? And everything was okay. The mosquitoes were kind of crazy. My boat partner and I, probably the best on the water, so we were going pretty fast. And you had these different groups coming in, like opposite of us, and we'd have like collisions. Not fun. Colliding into a stranger's boat was not fun, especially when you're getting eat up by mosquitoes. So we got out to the actual bay, and it was this huge open expanse of water. And we waited out there a couple minutes until it got dark. And then we got a tarp put over us to actually, see the little critters in the water that would light up. And we got finally, our guide got all of us out there and tied us all up. And we got a tarp put over us. And you just see these like little tiny lights in the water when you splash around in the water. And it was super cool looking because the water would just light up whenever you hit it or anything like that. So my favorite part of that was going back. That was a trip because it was in pitch black, right? And we have groups, once again, coming in and we're going out. I'd like to comment again, we were the fastest on the water, right? So maneuvering through the dark like that and seeing your paddle hit the water and not knowing what's in the water, mind you, that was kind of scary. It was scary, but we got out and it was a lot of fun, something everybody should experience. So yeah, going on the beach.
All right. So we went to the beach. What was it? Our last half day after we went to San Juan, or maybe it was beforehand. I don't remember. But,
It was right before the Bio Bay.
That's
for
right.
like an
You're
hour.
right. Fun story. I actually bought this little, swimsuit. Actually, it had matching pants and a matching Hawaiian with it. And I went to the pool with my buddies, and so that's when I bought it. Right. I was gonna take it on this trip. My mom begged me to not take it, right? My dad too. He was like, I think they were willing to pay me to not take this thing. And so I took it anyway, and we went over to the beach, and Devin dragged us out into the middle of the ocean and then let us swim back. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And so yeah, it was a fun experience.
And then hand it over to Braden. Braden's gonna tell you a little bit about what we did on one of the nights.
Was it the last one?
Salsa dancing. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was the last one, but. Anyway.
All right, so on Wednesday night, in the top left, as one of their gifts to us for coming to help, they taught us how to salsa dance. And there were quite a few of us, which was like 5 lines, and about all of those, I think 10 of us actually tried. It was so awkward, and everybody was either good at it or bad at it. There was no in between.
Can you tell us a little bit about Seth?
I'm going to say there was one person there, Seth Hammond. I don't know what he was doing. He was not salsa dancing. He was in his own world. He would be doing Michael Jackson. What was the hand thing? No, the hand in the air, that thing.
It was crazy.
He was doing everything but salsa dancing. So he was having fun. But they played a lot of Spanish music that we had the beats to salsa dance. And the guy in the middle in the pink, he was our instructor, barely knew any English. So we'd have a translator the entire time, through the music, through the dancing, trying to hear her. So it was hard, but it was fun.
Can I add to like the Bio Bay?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. Well, I had a different experience than Jake. I got to go at the later time. We went from 8 to 10. And my partner was Tracy Kircher, the best partner. And it was hard going there and back because it was very dark, branches hanging very low. We get out there, it was pretty cool. Ours was a lot brighter than probably the earlier session. And we were coming back, and Tracy, I'm sorry, Tracy, I have to tell this story. I love it so much. We were coming back, and me and Tracy, before this happened, we were talking about how we wanted to create a romantic gondolier on the bioluminescent bay, and we were just going to move here, and we were going to make so much money. But then here come Wilder and, was it Caleb? Caleb, and little do you know about Tracy, she is deathly afraid of ants, like deathly afraid of ants. And we were going towards the bank, and I'm like, Tracy, there's a tree, Tracy. And Caleb and Wilder, they rear end us, and I go right into a branch. And Tracy just yells out a word that I'm going to keep disclosed. And yeah, I've never been scared of Tracy before, but I sat in quiet for a good 5 minutes. Because Tracy is like my second mother, and I was very scared. But what I'm here to talk about right now is Old San Juan. We went to Old San Juan last time before we left, and this time you can walk around, go shopping. But what I did is we went on Google Maps for about 30 minutes to an hour trying to find this bead shop that Tracy talked wonders about. We went to one, she was like, this is not it. And I was like, okay. And then we went to the next one, and that was not it. And then we walked around the block, and then it finally was right there. And Tracy was just like, okay, we're gonna buy this and this and this. But then we didn't have time to get them strung, so we had to take them home and get them strung. But that was what I did in San Juan.
And you can see some of the pictures up here. There was you could rent an iguana from this guy to get a picture. And so we had a bunch of folks that ended up with iguanas on their heads or shoulders. And it was just kind of funny. I'm sorry, we don't have any pictures from the bioluminescent bay because they don't let you take anything out there. And also they said even if you could, you can't actually take pictures of them because you'd have to have a $60,000 camera in order to actually catch it. So instead, you just got a picture of random people kayaking in a bay. So that's what you got. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Go ahead to that last slide, please. Or not last slide, but the next one. Yeah. So there's still actually so much that can be done there. I was texting with Christian the other day, and he was asking us when we were going to come back. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know when we're going to come back. And he's like, well, that building that you fixed the roof on, it's going to need a new roof. It's going to need a new roof. And he's like, and I know you guys could do that. And not just a new roof. I mean, it needs to be reframed on the inside because they tried to put 3 different buildings and connect them together. That's what they did. And so the roof line is just a mess. But they're like, he's like, you can do that. I know you guys can do that. If you bring a bigger team, there are churches that I know that are just waiting to build a building, and you can help them build their church buildings. He's like, there's so many opportunities, and he's begging for us to come back. And the Christian, I love him to death. He was telling me the other day. He said there was a church. I guess it was his last one for the summer, and he said one of the leaders was like, so we're your favorite group, right? We're your favorite group, and he said I had to tell him. He said no, there's another one. It's called the Fountain City. And I said, Christian, I'm sure you say that to everybody. He's like, no, I really don't. He's like, you guys are the best. Because he says that we're willing to do the things that nobody else is willing to do, and we don't argue about doing them. We just go in and we work. And I hope that we can kind of adopt this church's, IB Metropolis's slogan as far as we enter here to worship, and when we walk out those doors, we serve. And we have an opportunity to go back in Puerto Rico to serve, and we also have opportunities here in our community to serve. I'm going to ask Becky to come up real quick and tell you a little bit about something that's going on.
I am Becky Ripley. I am on the missions team here, or the missions committee, excuse me. You were the mission team. We are a missions committee. And we have an opportunity to invite the youth, their parents, the supporters of this group that are gathered here this evening, everybody in our congregation to participate in local mission. Going away was a wonderful experience. I started in mission through the youth group here at church, where we would go up to I don't even know where in Kentucky and stay in really horrible places and do all kinds of stuff. The roof picture reminded me of my first roofing job. I could have learned some skills at Operation Backyard, so I'm impressed, and I hope that maybe you will continue that. On August the 28th, Fountain City churches are teaming together with Operation Inasmuch United Knoxville to have multiple mission projects ongoing throughout that day here in Fountain City as well as citywide. There will be 3 Operation Backyard wheelchair ramps built that day. We have a total of like 18 or 19 projects to pick from. There are things that require tools, so those of you who have had experience with major, power tools, go for it. I can't do that. I'm not a good painter. So, there are all skill levels, skill project available. We are part of that day, I'm getting all of my missions mixed up, but we're doing the Rise Against Hunger again in East Knoxville, and those meals packaged that day will stay in the Knoxville area to be dispersed through food banks. So we're really helping folks in our community and working with the people in our community to do it. So a lot of people will be blessed that day, the participants as well as those who receive the benefits of that day. So I encourage you to sign up through a link on our church website. I am not techie, but I was able to do that. If you have trouble with that, call the church office and we'll get you signed up. Today is the last day to order shirts. If you want a $10 t-shirt to wear that day, today's the last day to do that. So when you go home, get signed up, get registered, and buy your t-shirt today. There will be a commissioning service at Central Baptist Church across the street at 8:30 that morning on August the 28th. Then we'll disperse to go out into the community, do our work, and then on Sunday night, the 29th, we'll meet back here for sort of what we've done tonight, to celebrate all the projects and hear stories of the participants. And then we're going to have ice cream, hopefully outside. It'll be pretty and not too hot so that we can celebrate together all of the things that have been accomplished. And thank you all for representing Fountain City United Methodist Church so well in a place that would have never heard of our church, would have never seen your faces. And you went and did God's work, and we thank you for representing us. The missions committee hopes that you will continue your work through the youth group and beyond, so that someday you might be on the missions committee at some church and say, I remember that time that I went to Puerto Rico and started working and doing things that I felt called to do. So thank you for doing that. And Daniel, thank you for leading them, and for Brian for going back, knowing what you were facing. And oh goodness, it sounds like a major life-changing event. And I just thank you all for listening to God's call. So thank you for representing us well.
All right. So youth, you need to go home, you need to get your families and your parents, you need to be like, hey, go on the church website, sign up for Operation Inasmuch. It's an opportunity. Y'all can sign up for some of those wheelchair ramps projects. There's some people that are already signed up for them. But you know what? You can go and you can meet some new people and you can work with them with your families. All right? Go talk your families into signing up, and you can show them what you've learned and what you've been doing for the last several years. Got it? Go do that. It's a really good opportunity to serve with your families. So parents, if your kids don't want to go serve with you, tough, make them do it anyway. That's what you're here for. So, but no, it's a great opportunity to work with your kids, and there's some awesome projects that you can go and be a part of. So please go do that. And I'm going to ask Don to come up real quick, or Don and Chase to come up. Okay.
Y'all, we didn't do this tonight, but we need to go ahead and give Daniel a round of applause for organizing this.
No, you really don't. You can give the kids and give Brian and Kathy and Tracy and Aaron and the leaders that went,
That was coming next. That was coming next.
They had to put up with me. So.
Yeah. Let's give a round of applause to the parents as well. And Donna.
Yes, and Donna. Sorry.
But most importantly, y'all, thank you for going on this trip and serving and representing our church well. It means a lot to us here at Fountain City that we have youth that are so engaged in serving not only our community, but communities all across the world. So thank you for going on that mission trip. Y'all, let's give the youth another round of applause. So to close out my little speech, entramos para adorar y salimos para servir. I don't know why I forgot those basic verbs. I speak Spanish, so I apologize. Don, do you want to close us out in prayer?
I would love to. Hey, and before I close this out, I just want to say thanks again, just to reiterate, as pastors, we are passionate about mission, and serving in mission, local and beyond, is so important to your discipleship growth. But don't think that because on Monday you're at school, you can't be in mission. Just because, know that just as much as you can build a building, you can build someone up tomorrow. And that is equally as important as digging a ditch or building a building. So never think you have to have tools to do it. God gives you the tools you need, and that's your heart. And that'll always put you on the right path. But let's pray. God, we thank you for the passion that's in this room, the energy that's in this room, and the vision that's in this room to serve you here in Fountain City, in our schools, and our homes, but also far beyond this place. We thank you for the stewardship of this church and this community that allows us to take the resources and the time and the energy to be able to do what we've been a part of, knowing that we don't do anything without your blessing and without your guidance. So God, we give you praise for the grace that went before us to prepare a way, the grace that comes behind us to help the next team that comes in, and for the grace right now in this moment as we just experience the love and the joy of what it is to know a victory has been won for you. We give you praise and ask continued passion for the work that you want us to do in this church and in this world. And all God's people said, amen.
All right, thank you. Guys, thank you very much. There's some cookies and some drinks over there if you want something. If not, we're closed out. Thank you very much.